health deficit, and all that followed. But too often the focus is on the problems, pain, and pathos found in African American history. Discovering truth, revealing little-known realities, and surprising stories can offer inspiration and instruction, even in the world of healthcare insurance and other forms of financial self-sufficiency.
You've heard before how we couldn't get pork chops, so we made chitlins a delicacy. Well, in the same vein, we had African American leaders, primarily coming out of our religious community, ministers like Absalom Jones and Richard Allan, who at the end of the 18th century, while we were still struggling with slavery and disconnects of all sorts, created, out of their religious fervor, mutual aid societies.
Richard Allan, along with a number of other Black Methodist bodies that came together, formed the African Methodist Episcopal Church and incorporated, had our first general conference in 1816. The AME Church, initially started from what we like to consider as the first sit-in Philadelphia in 1787, led by Richard Allan, Absalom Jones, and some worshipers at St. George's Methodist Episcopal Church, where they were not welcome to worship freely. After they completed their prayer, they walked out. And they started the Free African Society, which was a benevolent society that was really focused on caring for those that really were having trouble caring for themselves.
The Free African Society's Articles of Incorporation, written in the spring of 1787, call out a concern with health and wellness that resonates across the centuries as they stated, "A society should be formed without regard to religious tenets, provided the persons lived an orderly and sober life, in order to support one another in sickness and for the benefit of their widows and fatherless children."
African Americans pool their funds that we might be able to bury our dead, that we might be able to take care of the widows, that we might be able to provide some health care for the youth.
We can find mutual aid societies providing protection, providing funds for food, for education, libraries, homes that were founded for orphans of color who had nowhere to go, who couldn't be part of orphanages that served white people. All of these sorts of things, as at the same time they were fighting against slavery.
In the very beginning, I mean, the black church was everything to the African American. I mean, it was a place where we did our theology, of course, and our politics. It was our conservatory of music. It was everything for the African American family and the African American child.
The gospel of Jesus Christ is about wholeness for people. If you look at Jesus in the Gospels, as the story is told, he's always concerned about the wellness of people. People who were blind, he wanted to have sight. People who were deaf, he wanted them to be able to hear. People who were crippled, he wanted them to be able to walk straight. And people who were even having issues with emotions, he wanted them to be whole, right? And so the church should operate the same way.
The scriptures say that it is the desire of God that we prosper in our health in the same way that our soul would prosper. The holistic kind of philosophy that undergirds the black church comes out of our kind of collective struggle. And so we have to address and have had to address these kinds of issues collectively for some time.
Well, it's an important model because at the time, there was no insurance for black folks.
These historic works of these heroes evolved from mutual aid societies to, as we move further down the line, African American insurance companies. The Atlanta Lifes, the Golden State Mutuals, the Supreme Life Insurances, the North Carolina Mutuals.
A multi-million-dollar enterprise operated solely by and for Negroes. Inside the home office this morning, switchboard operators, clerks, stenographers, bookkeepers and secretaries prepare for a routine day's work with their usual composed dignity.
These came as responses of a community that was left out, that decided it needed to take care of itself.
Charles Spaulding makes his way through the busy third-floor office to the early struggle of youth, the three white collars, and the day he closed his struggling grocery store to become general manager of Durham's first Negro insurance company, the North Carolina Mutual and Provident Association.
What they did was so much a part of what our people did. Our people have always felt that they needed to lead the way in resolving those problems.
You look back on history and you look back on our ancestors and our current elders and their ability to take ownership of the health of our community.